What's up, everybody? My name is Kenneth, and I'm a foreigner living in the Philippines. And today I'm here to react and learn about the history of the Philippines explained in 8 minutes. This should be interesting. Let's go ahead and get the screen up here. Here we go. There you go. There you can see the screen. So this is the video History of the Philippines explained in 8 minutes. This looks interesting. Let's check this out.
The Philippines consists of over 7,000 islands, inhabited by over 100
Yeah, right. We learned that in last video. Over 7,400 islands, I believe. It's a crazy amount.
million people. The
How many
archipelago has
people?
over 7,000 islands, inhabited by over 100 million people.
100 million people. Wow. I'm from Norway in Europe, and we have about 5 million people. So, yeah, that's a lot. It's a big population.
The archipelago has, for thousands of years, been the natural melting pot of Asia. Through the ages, immigrants and adventurers from all over East Asia and as far afield as India and the Middle East have all found their way to the Philippines. Shaped by the
Yeah, it makes sense. It's like a middle point in like geography speaking. You have like China here, you got the Indonesians, Malaysians, and then you have Indochina and India. It makes sense. It's kind of like in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of all these major countries, Japan also to the north, and the US to the east. It's really just in the middle of Asia, Philippines. It's a really good like center position.
geography, the earliest cultures to form in the Philippine archipelago were small bands of independent and skilled seafarers. Between approximately 2,000 and 1,500 years ago, many mountains and hills were transformed into terraced farmland. Many still in use today are fed by ancient, sophisticated irrigation.
So I've seen these types of farms in many countries. And in the Philippines a lot also when I'm driving around the countryside, you can see farms like this. Why do they actually make them like this? This jagged, zigzaggy shape. What's the benefit of farming like this? Is it just to flatten the land, I guess? I guess that's the only option you have if it's just a very mountainous country. Then you don't really have an option. You gotta kind of like flatten it out like this. Still, though, it'd be interesting to know what like the actual reason is. Maybe I'm correct. Who knows? Let's see.
Systems, channeling water down from the rainforests above the terraces. And it is said that the steps, put end to end, would encircle half the globe. The Sahuin culture is one of the best early examples of extensive trade, cultural ties, and possibly immigration into the Philippine archipelago. Objects made from gold and glass, bronze weapons, tools, and mirrors were imported from the mainland.
Wow, 1000 BC to 200 AD. That's very ancient. That's interesting. I didn't know there was this much history in the Philippines, way back to 1000 BC. I really have no idea what happened in the Philippines in general before the Spanish came. No, it was a Spanish colony, and after that, an American one, then independence. But like, what happened before that in these islands? I really have no idea. As a Norwegian, we don't really learn much about the Philippines at all. We learn like basic geography of the world and stuff, but I can't say a lot of Norwegians really know about this, or a lot of Europeans. So yeah, I'm interested to figure out like uh, why we don't learn about this, and also what really happened here, in this part of the world.
Throughout this cultural region, similar art and jewelry was crafted, and the cremation of the dead was ubiquitous. The Sahuin culture is thought to be the predecessors of the Cham people of Vietnam, who formed a venerable kingdom. From the period approximately from 300 AD to 1000,
So were they Vietnamese or Filipinos? Like, did they settle into the Philippines, or did the Filipinos settle into Vietnam, or were they kind of the same people way back then? I'd be interested to know that. I didn't really explain like what were the people like.
large numbers of Malays migrating from, or possibly fleeing, the rapidly expanding Srivijaya Empire began to populate the Philippines. During this
Oh,
period,
really? So like Malaysians or Malay people, I don't know if that's the same. They were living here and then they emigrated to the Philippines due to like war or something.
Aboriginal
Let's see.
Srivijaya Empire began to populate the Philippines. During this period, the aboriginal Melanesian populations of the archipelago moved further inland to the highlands and jungles where they still exist today. Or,
What? So is there Aboriginal people in the Philippines? I thought, for me, Aboriginals, I know about them. They lived in Australia and I think New Zealand before that was colonized. I had no idea. If I'm understanding this correctly, they lived in the Philippines, or they still do, in the mountains and in the forests. They were kind of pushed into the mountains and forest when these new immigrants from the Malay countries came and settled, and then they were kind of like forced into the mountains and the forests. Interesting. Huh, I didn't know. I didn't know there was Aboriginals in the Philippines.
intermingled with the successive waves of Malay newcomers, who brought two Indian religions, Buddhism and Hinduism, to the archipelago.
Really? Buddhism and Hinduism came to the Philippines before Christianity, but somehow the people still ended up being Christian. That's interesting. I wonder why that happened. That's interesting. That's very unique of Asia. Huh.
Society became stratified into groups of 100 families or more, called barangays, each led by a
What? Called Barangay? You gotta be kidding me. Is that why it's called Barangay? I'm learning so much. This is so mind blowing to me. It's still called Barangay to this day. They called it Barangay back then and they still call it. That's so cool. Wait, let me hear that one more time.
religions, Buddhism and Hinduism, to the archipelago. Society became stratified into groups of 100 families or more, called barangays, each led
So barangays, forgive me if I say that incorrectly, but barangays were families of 100 or more. It was like a community, and that's why you call different areas different barangays. That is so interesting. I would never have guessed that. Wow, I'm so happy we're watching this video. This is so cool.
by a headman, or datu. Several datus were led by a raja, who led several barangays, called a bayan.
Do you still have these titles? Like, do you, like, instead of a mayor, do you have a raja or a datu? That'd be interesting. Let me know.
These kingdoms became extremely wealthy and had trade relations with the entire Eastern world. Paramount among these seems to have been the cosmopolitan city-state and trading hub of Tondo, located on the island of Luzon.
Tando. That looks mysteriously like Manila. Maybe I'll say that that's the predecessor to Manila. That'd be interesting.
The earliest written record discovered in the Philippines, the Laguna copperplate inscription, mentions the state of Tondo and is written in a script combining elements of Sanskrit, Old Javanese, Malay, and Tagalog. The barangays of Tondo were led by a Lakan.
So there was Tagalog back then even. Among other languages, Sanskrit and Malay. And this is from 900 AD. Tagalog was already around. Interesting. I wonder how old Tagalog is as a language.
Malay, and Tagalog. The barangays of Tondo were led by a Lakan instead of a Raja, and were democratically selected from among the datus of each barangay. Tondo expanded to control much of the island of Luzon, forming alliances and striking trade bargains to expand their territory just as often as through warfare. Formed from several ethnic groups, the Ifugao and the highlands of Luzon formed the longest-lasting state in the Philippines. This self-sufficient, landlocked state lasted for
You know what? I wonder if these people were just as friendly as modern day Filipinos. Or if society and culture has really changed a lot since then. I wonder what it would be like to meet these people, right? Would they have like the same mentality, or is everything like totally different now? That'd be interesting.
over 1,000 years, and was ruled over by a council of elders. Several other long-lasting states formed throughout the Middle Ages, including Mai, who held diplomatic relations with Song Dynasty China, until Tondo secured a monopoly on trade with China in the archipelago. The Madhas Confederacy was originally a vassal state of the Srivijayan Empire. They would wage war on the Chinese Imperial Navy and raided the southern Chinese coast. They also were Tondo's most significant rival in the region, and fought several wars against them. Here, the longest and oldest surviving epic poem from the region was composed, recounting the deeds of an ancient hero. The Rajanate of Cebu was founded by a minor prince of the southern Indian Chola dynasty that occupied the island of Cebu.
Rajanate of Cebu from an Indian dynasty. That does sound pretty Indian, Raj. Interesting. Were there a lot of Indian people in the Philippines back then? Before the Spanish? And this lasted from 1200 to 1565. I believe that's when the Spanish came. I wondered, that's really interesting. I wonder what would happen if the Spanish never came. If the Rajanate continued into modern day. I don't know, was that like an Indian sort of state with a lot more Indian culture? Would the Philippines be more like India then? Interesting how history could have changed if certain events didn't happen, right?
Sumatra far to the south. He was sent to establish an expeditionary base. Instead, he rebelled and carved out an independent Rajanate for himself. The Rajanate of Bhutan was known for its mining of gold, its gold products, and extensive trade networks, reaching the civilizations of modern-day China, Japan, India, Indonesia, Persia, Cambodia, and Thailand. During this period, large gold deposits were discovered throughout the Philippines, and gold ingots and bracelets of different sizes were commonly used as currency throughout the region. The kingdom of Cabalawan was a Ming dynasty tributary, and as time went on, they had an
So it was like a Ming dynasty contributor. That means Ming dynasty was a Chinese dynasty, if I'm not wrong. So it was kind of like a Chinese colony, kind of owned by China. Interesting. So you got all these influences in the Philippines. That must be why there's so much diversity here, so many languages and cultures. Really just a melting pot. Like all the Asian countries kind of met here in the Philippines. And eventually even European ones also. Really puts it into perspective just why there's so much difference, so much diversity here in the Philippines. Alright, let's continue.
increasingly hostile relationship with Tondo. In the early 1400s, the Sunni Islamic Bruneian Empire began to expand into the Philippine archipelago, and around the year 1500, established the semi-independent Rajanate of Manila as a competitor to Tondo's maritime dominance in the region.
So that's the first time we hear Manila. So it was established what it looks like outside of modern day Manila, outside of Tondo back then. And was like a rival to Tondo. Huh. I wonder how Manila won over Tondo. Tondo seemed like way bigger. I wonder why it's not called Tondo today, huh?
Built directly across Tondo on the opposite banks of the Pasig River Delta, Manila would gradually supplant Tondo, which fell under increasing Bruneian influence. The Sultanate of Maguindanao formed in the south, ruled over by a hereditary line of sultans that maintained very favorable relations with the Dutch and English for over 3 centuries, until finally falling to the Spaniards in the 19th century. In 1521, a Spanish expedition that would go on to be the first to circumnavigate the planet.
And then the Spanish start coming. So this is really interesting. This is what the Philippines looked like before the Spanish came. And as we saw in the first video I made, Maguindanao was never colonized. So you can see they controlled this region before the Spanish came, and they continued keeping it. Even under all the 300 years of Spanish colonization, they were never annexed or taken over, which is really interesting. I still don't know why that is. Sorry for pausing so much. Just so much info in this video, huh? Let's continue.
Reached the Philippines. It was led by the Portuguese, Fernão Magalhães. The Raja of Cebu declared allegiance to the Spanish crown and converted to Catholicism. The nearby small island
Catholicism
of
enters.
was not as amicable and killed Fernão as they disembarked with a small attack force on the island. The Spaniards left but would return quickly, sending 5 subsequent expeditions. And in 1543, Ruy López de Villalobos renamed the islands Las Filipinas after Philip II of Spain. During the conquest of Manila, much of the city was burnt to the ground, and the Spanish settlement of Manila was founded there as the capital.
So it used to be called Manila, but then when the Spanish tried to conquer it, they burnt it to the ground, and then they renamed it Manila, and that name kind of just stuck around, I'm presuming. I wonder what happened to Tondo. Does that still exist? Is there still like a district of Manila called Tondo? Or is that name just completely wiped out now? That'd be interesting to know.
Capital of the Spanish East Indies. In 1578, the Sulu Sultanate, a longtime vassal of
I've heard about this, the Zulu Sultanate. They were like a Muslim, yeah, Sultanate. So that's kind of like how Islam came to the Philippines, I think. Or maybe it was there already in Maguindanao. I don't know. Let me know in the comments.
declining empire of Brunei, became fully independent and would become a longtime foe of the Spanish. The Sultanate of Sulu became notorious for the so-called Moro raids, pillaging and taking of slaves. The Spanish would burn down their cities several times, only to have new bases of operations sprout up on different islands. By the mid-1600s, Manila was a bustling port city, as galleons crisscrossed the Pacific Ocean, leaving from Acapulco, in modern-day Mexico, filled with silver, mined there and in Potosi, and returning from Manila, filled with luxury goods such as porcelain, silk, and spices. Spanish territory
Okay, so there's a lot of luxury goods in the Philippines. And Manila became quite a big port, exporting all this to the entire world. That's interesting.
slowly expand, defeating a series of Dutch attempts to seize Manila. The British did seize it for a short while during the 7 Years' War.
Right, we learned this. The British actually took over for a little bit. Although, in the other video, it said they only had like this much. Now they're saying they had all of Luzon, basically. Interesting. And the Dutch tried to take it. We learned that also.
Only to return it after the war had ended, and the treaty stipulated that they do so. Over the centuries of Spanish rule,
Ah, they didn't explain that in the other video. I was wondering why they gave that back. It was after the 7 Year War ended in the peace treaty. It was agreed upon that Spain would continue holding on to it. Okay, so that's why they kind of just gave it up. It was part of like a peace treaty. Interesting.
Spanish became the primary language used in the Philippines. Many of the regional dialects and scripts completely disappeared over.
Interesting. On this map, it says that Spain does actually own Maguindanao. That contradicts the first video I watched on this channel. If you guys know what's actually true, which video is correct, please do let me know. I'd be interested to know.
Time. Following the Spanish-American War and period of U.S. military rule, the Philippines became an American territory, and in 1935 became an American Commonwealth. During the brutal Japanese occupation of the Philippines in the Second World War, 500,000 to 1 million Filipino civilians were killed.
Wow.
In 1943, the Japanese set up a short-lived puppet state. After the war, the Philippines returned to being an American Commonwealth. And in 1946, a Philippine Republic was established, which was replaced by the dictatorship of Ferdinand Marcos, who ruled as a dictator under martial law from 1972 until 1981. And
Ah, I didn't know that. I don't know a lot about modern Philippines history, like politics and stuff. If that's something you guys are interested in me like taking a look into, then let me know. I could definitely learn some more about that.
held the position of president for over 20 years. His regime was infamous for its corruption, extravagance, and brutality. Eventually, public outrage boiled over, and in a snap election, he was removed from power and fled to Hawaii. He was replaced by Maria Corazon Aquino, the wife of a murdered opposition leader, who returned to face Marcos. She has been followed by 5 more Philippine presidents. And that was a lightning-fast overview of Philippine history. And this has been Epimetheus. I hope you enjoyed it. Huge thanks to all
there
my
you go.
patrons
That's the
on
end of the video.
Patreon and subscribers.
Really good video. I'm gonna give that a like. This was by Epimetheus. Hard to pronounce. But yeah, it's an older video, but it's still really good. Go check this channel out. Really enjoyed this. Let's see if there's any comments. The biggest misconception about my country is as if we started our history when the Spaniards arrived in 1521. Yeah, that's kind of what I've in my head. That's all the history about the Philippines I've known about. Just this when the Spanish arrived and the colonization. Didn't really know anything about the Philippines before the Spanish arrived. So this was really interesting. I'm definitely glad I watched this. So guys, thanks for watching. I make daily reaction videos about the Philippines. So if you're interested in that sort of content, if you enjoyed this video, then you should consider subscribing and liking the video. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow for another video. Alright, thank you for watching. Bye bye.